Hey everyone, this is meant to be a kinda somewhat tutorial video on the carburetors for this for the Nighthawk cb700sc. Mine is a 1984. It's pretty rough. There was a lot of stuff wrong with it. It wasn't running when I got it. It's a long story, but the carbs were one thing I couldn't salvage. So I was on the verge of selling this thing so many times because I couldn't get the stock carbs to the needles to seat, and I couldn't find any replacement seats, so I was basically SOL. And I gave it one last ditch attempt, and I had this idea. These are 4 DR200 carburetors. So yeah, basically, yeah, this video is not scripted, you can tell. These, I don't know, they're Kippa brand or whatever off of Amazon. They're like 75 bucks a piece. I figured I'd give it a shot. What you have to do is you have to cut off some tabs. You can see the next one in there is the same way to make them fit together. You have to take the end caps off your stock carbs and put them on either end when you're done. Basically, the throttle plates, the actual butterfly plates in there, and the linkages from your stock cb700sc carbs will fit into these DR200 Chinese knockoff carburetors. What you have to do is where they come together inside at every junction, you have to file the aluminum to get the clearances correct. And it's basically, you know, file it and then you know, kind of test fitting and stuff like that. It's a process, but the throttle plates will fit. Your stock throttle cable bracket will fit, but it does require that you cut the front part off of it so that you are only left with the pull cable. There is no push cable, which does make throttle play kind of a bit of an issue, and there's only so much that you can get out of that, so it's a little tricky, unfortunately. In order to tie all the chokes together, because the stock carburetors have like a flat bar linkage with forks on it that pulls up what is essentially each one of these, except each one of these on the stock carb sticks up kind of forward like this on each of the carburetor bodies. So in essence, basically, your stock choke cable mechanism, I didn't bother, you know, reconnecting the cable. I've left this lever here just because it's kind of an integral part of this. There's no cable, so what I did to tie them all together was I took the let's see, this is all stuff you can get off of Amazon. It's basically a, you know, a cableless choke thing. Yeah, cableless choke thing that you can get for these carbs. Just, you know, search for that for DR200 carburetor, and these cables that I've got coming off of this little piece of copper, which is just a quarter-inch copper pipe. You flatten one end, bend it over, put a screw through here. You can crimp it down on the cables that go to the other 3 carburetors. Those cables are just actually, I think that's what remains of my original choke cable on the inside. I could be wrong, could be from some other cable, I don't remember. And then instead of these for the other 3, you need to get the regular cable variety. So a cable would go in here, and so you need to cut these cables to length. You need to fold over the end, and you need to put a blob of solder on that, and then you need to fit it into the regular cable style choke mechanism, or bypass mechanism, or whatever you want to call it. And yeah, then you have all four able to be choked at the same time. Makes starting obviously significantly easier. Then for the fuel lines, you'll have to obviously come off the petcock with one, go into a T, and then that goes into two more T's, and then, you know, goes down to there. I didn't end up using the regular rubber fuel line for the parts for coming off of each carb, because I found that it was too thick to fit down in here. Once you get a clamp on here, it's too wide to actually fit in with the casting. So this, I don't know what this stuff is made of. I got it at like AutoZone or something. It's just regular clear gas line. It's very thin walled, so it fits really well. And oh yeah, the brackets that join your stock carburetors together, you can use those as well to join these together. You're gonna have to file these holes or drill them out a little bit bigger, because the spacing is very slightly different. And same thing down there. You're gonna have to modify the holes in these brackets just very slightly to line up with the screw holes. So basically, these individual DR200 carburetors are cast in such a way that they are made to be joined together, because they have all these flanges for joining them together, and these go all the way through. They're made to be configured in a multi-carburetor setup, I assume, for some other bike. It's a casting that was made for multiple purposes, obviously, and it just so happens that you can put four of them together with minimal modification and get your cb700sc running again. These pod filters, so the story with that is, I found out that well, with the stock airbox, you can connect the stock airbox to here too. All both sides of the carburetor are the same size for this application. The problem I ran into is poor throttle response and severe reduction in power when using the stock airbox. So I ended up putting these pod filters on instead. I mean, I probably could have tuned it to the point where it would have been okay, but I didn't feel like tuning it that much. I just put these pod filters on. And for the oil breather line, I originally had one of those dedicated oil breather filters, the cone filters you can put off the nipple on the crankcase. But of course, you know, even with it like up top here, so that it would constantly cover these in oil, which they're supposed to be soaked in anyway, it was making a mess. Every time I went up in altitude and had to adjust the idle, I'd reach in here to adjust the idle, and my hand would be covered in oil. So I ended up doing the same thing like I did with the fuel lines, coming off the nipple on the crankcase, teeing it off to each one of the pod filters, and then I put a 90-degree angle hose barb into the back of the pod filters, which is just rubber. You can drill it pretty easily. Just pop the fitting in there. I made sure that all the floats were the same height when these things were dry and flipped upside down before I installed them. The only jetting changes I had to make was the pilot jet, and then I had to mess with the idle mixture screw. You'll have to mess with that to make it work for you, I guess. I will put the pilot jet size that I used up on the screen. It's a 50. Again, off of Amazon, you know. This stuff is really cheap. Let's see, what else? Oh yes, the idle. So, you can just see it in there. Right here. That's the original idle screw handle, at least. I put a different screw through it, which I believe was an Allen head all thread screw, and I had a piece of square stock zinc, I think it's like a zinc flywheel key or something like that. You can get them in zinc, you can get them in steel. 1/2 inch by 1/2 inch square by like 3 inches long or something, and you just cut it to length. And there's these two tabs, that's right. There's these two tabs that I didn't cut off. That one, the third one down, the third carburetor down, these two tabs I didn't cut off. I took that chunk of metal and I put it like this, drilled through it, put screws up into these tabs to secure it in place. And I drilled and tapped through that square piece of metal up to at a you know, pretty close angle to where the tip of the screw would push against the you know, the idle adjustment mechanism, whatever. Just look at your stock carbs and you'll know what I'm talking about. You basically have to create that for this setup. You do have to do some, you know, a little bit of custom fabrication there to get your idle screw in there. But yeah, it all works. The engine's cold. I'm gonna put this back together. I have the parts down there, and I'll show you it working. Oh, and you know, since your airbox is gonna be empty, you can use it for storage. I emptied mine out because I'm selling this bike soon because I'm moving. But you know, you can put a spare quart of oil in there, you can put your tools in there, you can put anything that'll fit in there will go in there. It's a convenient storage box now. But yeah, let's see if you can see the mechanism. Yeah, in case you don't believe me for some reason, but I'm gonna put this back together and come back and start it up. Okay, everything's back together. Okay. Gotta set the phone down because I gotta pull the clutch in for this. This is completely cold. Just so you know, it does work. Which is also why it's so rough, because it's still cold. Oh, that's about it. I'm not gonna go for a ride because I don't have a way to, you know, film that very well. But yeah, it works.